In today's training, we are going to uncover the secrets of building a magnetic, irresistible brand that deeply resonates with your ideal clients. We're diving into the heart of human connection and exploring how emotions drive decision-making. I want to start by telling a little story about an experience that I had with one of my students/clients. It was a few years ago, and I was approached by this woman. She is incredibly talented. She's an artist, but she was struggling to make a living online. It was interesting because she had this magnificent portfolio, beautiful work. Her website was great. It was functional, and yet her sales were lackluster. When we started working together through these different courses and containers that I offer, I knew that we needed to dig deeper into her brand to find this missing piece. It's not just about the things that we sell. It's not just about the mechanics of our brand. It's about the heart. While her website showcased her artwork, it didn't tell the story behind the art, behind the products. It didn't talk about her as an artist. It didn't talk about what inspired her to create or why she chose the subjects that she did. There was no emotional hook that would draw people in and make them connected to her. She started to shift this. She started to share her journey, started to share her inspiration, her struggles, the behind the scenes, the stories. We're going to dive even deeper into storytelling in tomorrow's training, by the way. We also emphasized more of the impact and the transformation that people were having once they purchased her art. So what was this after? What was the before and what was the after when people bought the art? You can do this through things like testimonials and user-generated content, those kinds of things. As we continue to add this emotional layer to her brand, something incredible happened. Her audience started to see her not only as an artist, but as a human with a story, with vulnerabilities. And they began to connect with her on a deeper level. And as a result, her sales started to climb. She started to see more of those results that she was seeking. And her audience was no longer just interested in the aesthetics of the work or the price of the work. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that price shopping consumer and how frustrating that can be as somebody who pours their heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into their brand. They were invested in her journey and the meaning behind her brand. I've seen this story play out in so many of my students and so many of my clients. And I can't wait for you to experience some of those same magical outcomes that this particular artist did. If you are ready to build a brand that is truly you and that stands out from the crowd, no matter how saturated your market is, you want to connect with your dream clients on a deeper emotional, gut, psychological level. You want to leave a legacy. You're not just in this to make a quick dollar. Yes, of course, that's nice, but we also want to have sustainability and staying power in our brands. And then if you're committed to doing this in the right way, you want to build trust, you want to build loyalty and long-term success that comes with that. And if we haven't been officially introduced, I am so happy that you found my corner of the internet. I am Kaye Putnam, the psychology-driven brand strategist. I've been at this for over 10 years and have been an entrepreneur for over 15 years. I probably need to update that number because I was 16 when I first started my business. So I guess that makes it 20 years. I'm aging myself here. That aside, the reason that I do this is I believe that entrepreneurs have the power to change the world. And I am fully aware of how cliche and cheesy that sounds, but I see it every day. The small shifts, the small wins that we create in our business have this infinite ripple effect. Our families see us working in our genius. They see that it's possible for us, and it proves that it could be possible for them. Same for our friends, our community. We're able to make an impact at a higher level. I'm going to tell you a really vulnerable story in tomorrow's training about how this came true for me, but I want to dive into the meat today. So we'll save that for tomorrow. At a time when the world is increasingly complex, and when so many of our systems are under tension, under stress, and overcomplicated, entrepreneurs are the ones who have the power to make things happen. You that are in health and wellness, you are directly helping people feel better and live more vibrant lives. educators and mentors and consultants go direct to the people that you're helping and you help them. There's not all of these structures of, I want to be careful here because those systems have served us really well. I have a college degree. All of that is amazing. And yet I continue to learn and grow through the benefit of entrepreneurs who are willing to share their genius and to share it with me directly and not to hide it behind the walls of academia. Same for health and wellness coaches, life coaches, and people that help us with our relationships. They facilitate meaningful transformations. Even the e-commerce brands that are selling products, you're giving people choices beyond what's just available at Walmart or on Amazon or whatever big box store that we all used to shop at. And if I can help more brilliant entrepreneurs like you package up your genius and get it out into the world, I am living in my purpose. So if that sounds like you, I am excited that you found me. I'm excited that you are here. Let's get this genius out into the world. I truly believe that each of you holds the power to make a difference. This doesn't mean that we are going to be the one that perhaps invents the cure for cancer or completely shifts climate change. But every little step in the right direction is making positive change. And we're making it directly, like I said. So let's unleash that potential inside of you and let's build your brand that transforms lives one life at a time. Today, we are going to look at some fascinating case studies in science and uncover the reason why emotions are powerful in driving consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is this like MBA word, right? But what that means is that people are deciding to choose us, to buy from us. And these are the things that we impact through the work that we do with branding. I'm going to lay out what I'm calling the cognitive brand schema, AKA we are looking at the elements that we have the power to influence to add more emotion into our own brands. And then from there, we're going to jump into a hands-on exercise so you can implement some of what you learned immediately here in today's training. And as we're going throughout all of this week's training, these 4 days of free training, I'll be sharing little tidbits about my brand clarity collective. So if you are ready to press fast forward and dive into the topics that you're uniquely interested in and want to do the deep dive into, the Brand Clarity Collective has more in-depth trainings on everything that we're talking about today and an incredible community of entrepreneurs. Let's start with case studies. I find it's always useful to see examples before I dive into the actual elements because our brain remembers stories. Case studies are stories. So let's demonstrate the immense power of emotions in branding. And we're going to start by looking at some situations that you may have encountered in your life. Let me know in the comments if you have ever experienced one of these situations in your own life. So imagine you're walking through a grocery store, you have your list, the almighty list, and you come across a beautiful display. Maybe it's decadent looking chocolates, or maybe it's this bougie new chicken bone broth that you've been hearing about. The packaging evokes an emotion, whether that's this desire for well-being and taking care of your body, or perhaps it's just that comfort and decadence and luxury that a great salted dark chocolate can bring. Your emotions take over, the item lands in your cart, and you buy it, even though you weren't logically intending on buying this thing before you walked into the grocery store. Am I the only one who has ever experienced this? I am terrible at sticking to my list. Just one small example of how emotions play a role. Another one is in product recommendations. And my family is a former military family. My husband's now separated. So we're living in one place now, but one amazing benefit of this past life of ours is that we have friends all over the country. And I swear, every time I visit one of our friends or we go someplace together, I end up buying some product because my friend swears by it. Last one was, I don't even know how to pronounce the brand name, but it's this lotion. I think it's called CeraVe. That's just incredible for hydrating dry skin. And I would not have purchased it if not for my dear friend, Sarah. I'm curious if any of you have ever experienced that, where you just have a friend that's like raving about how amazing something is and what a transformation that they've made in your life. And because of your emotional connection with that person, you then go out and buy it without much of a second thought, right? So that transfer of emotion from your relationship gets applied to a purchase. Or maybe you've experienced that scrolling on your phone, you've had a bad day, you're not feeling great, like you're feeling low energy, you're looking for something, like you're feeling a sense of lack, and something on your phone triggers the emotion that like, oh, that'll make me feel better. And for me, this has been many different things. I was planning a trip to go and celebrate a dear friend's wedding recently. I almost hate to admit this because it is what it is, but I was on TikTok scrolling through, and this beautiful woman, she was talking about how her friends always compliment her that she finds the most flattering outfits all of the time. And she gave a few examples. And one of them was this like beautiful corset top. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would look great in that on this trip. And from that space of feeling like, I don't know what I'm going to wear, I don't know what I'm doing, and like feeling like I wanted to support that or just like soothe myself in some way. This is through a lot of introspection. A lot of this typically happens on an unconscious level, but I bought the top. And maybe you've experienced the same thing where you've like read a stressful or like anxiety provoking article about the state of the world. And then you went out and bought something to make you feel better. I do this sometimes too. We all do this, right? So like we buy trainings, we buy workshops, we buy templates, we buy all of these things. And often it's not even from that logical place of like, this is what I was planning my next 3 quarters to look like. This is something that I can plug in here. It's something that happens in the moment. And that's because emotion is driving a lot of these decisions. Another example are seasonal promotions. So have you ever experienced where you don't typically buy cookies? Maybe you're an incredible superhuman who avoids sugar at all costs, but when the seasonal promotions come out, for me recently, it was Reese's eggs, and you buy them because they are nostalgic and they remind you of your childhood and they remind you of all of those traditions and all of those layers of emotion that are built into those rituals that we have as humans. And then also social media influence, similar to that TikTok story I just shared. Sometimes when we see somebody who's aspirational to us in some way, so maybe they're fitter, maybe they are more vibrant, maybe they have a unique personal style, when they recommend something, we transfer that emotion onto our purchase decision. And all of this is because people don't buy products, they buy feelings. And it's not always the same feeling, which we're going to talk about in a second. The science behind this is really fascinating. There is a neuroscientist named Antonio Damasio. He was actually studying people who had brain damage and had brain damage to the emotional portion of the brain. And what was interesting about these cases, and they're not very common, right? Thankfully, it's a trauma that isn't super common, but he was able to find at least one woman who had significant damage to the emotional part of her brain, but she was still able to reason. She still had the logic functions of her brain intact. But what he found was that she was incapable of making even simple decisions about what to eat for dinner or where to go next, what to do next. And he was able to discern from that research that emotions play a really crucial role. Even those of us who pride ourselves on being super logical and always going by the facts, always doing the research, our brain relies on the emotional parts of it to make basically all decisions. This has been backed up by other researchers, scientists, and business leaders as well. Harvard professor Gerald Zoltman, he found that up to 95% of purchasing decisions are subconscious, and the subconscious is ruled by our emotions. And then another interesting stat discovered by Havas Global, which is an agency that has an incredible benchmarking report that they create every year called Meaningful Brands. They found 77% of consumers buy brands who share their values, also another component of emotion. Harvard Business Review published a long article, really fascinating, about the value of emotional connection. And they found that fully emotionally connected customers on average are 52% more valuable. And they were measuring consumers beyond ones that were highly satisfied. So these aren't just people that were happy with their purchase. They were emotionally invested in the brand's personality, story, and positioning. And in some sectors and in some businesses, this was upwards of 100% more valuable, but averaged across all of the different industries and all of the millions of data points that they studied, it was 52%, which is significant. Can you imagine if you grew your business by 50%? It's a big deal. The secret to branding success is making people feel, not just think. 3 more case studies, and then we're going to get into how we actually do this. Tom's Shoes, which is a footwear company, has built its brand around the 1-for-1 model. For every pair of shoes sold, Tom's donates a pair to a child in need. So this simple yet powerful message creates emotional connection with consumers by appealing to their desire to make a positive impact in the world. When customers purchase a pair of Tom's shoes, they're not just buying their own selves a pair of shoes, they're participating in a global movement to improve the lives of underprivileged children. And this emotional connection has helped Tom's grow exponentially because people are drawn to their mission. They feel good about their purchases. People are buying feelings, remember? Another interesting case study from the big brands that we come into contact with in our lives is Lush Cosmetics. So Lush Cosmetics is a company that produces handmade cosmetics and personal care products. Their bath bombs are amazing. And they've built their brand around ethical and cruelty-free practices. They source all of their ingredients ethically. They never test on animals, and they promote environmental sustainability. And by crafting their brand strategy to emphasize these values, Lush appeals to customers' emotions, and it fosters that connection with those who value those same things. People feel good when they buy from Lush, knowing that they're not harming the world, harming animals, etc. They're supporting a company that aligns with their values. And then something else that Lush has been really fantastic at doing is just creating this very multi-sensory experience in their stores. There's products to try, there's all of the smells. All of this plays into our emotional decision making. If all of us were making purely logic-driven decisions, we would buy the cheapest product in that vertical every single time, or maybe the one that works the best. It would not be Lush. Lush is dramatically overpriced for the function that they sell, but because they've built in so much emotional value, we're happy to buy them. Old Spice, I love this case study. So they were our grandpa's aftershave a decade or so ago, but they have successfully rebranded, and they've actually shifted the emotion and the archetype, which we're going to talk about in a second, to create a unique and unforgettable image and connection in the minds of their customers. They developed a series of really quirky, hilarious, memorable commercials featuring characters like the Old Spice guy and the man your man could smell like. And they've captured a ton of attention and buzz around social media and the internet because of this bold emotional play. And as a result, there's now a stronger than ever connection, both with their customers and just with people in general, right? They've strengthened their brand image, distinguished themselves from competitors, and it's nothing about the practical aspects of their brand. It's all about emotion. So once you buy into this hypothesis that we want to add emotion into our brand, the next logical question is, how do I do that? And especially, how do I do that when I'm a small brand who doesn't have millions and millions of dollars in marketing and branding budgets? How do I do this on my level? And if you're asking that question, I am so glad that you're here, because this is the question that I've been answering for my entire personal brand career. How can we take what the big agencies and the big brands have been doing for years and benefit in a small business? How do we apply this in a reasonable way to businesses that are not nearly as flush with cash? And what's interesting is we have a lot of different levers that we can pull on. Creating a brand that connects on an emotional level is determined by all of the different ways that people experience our brand. similar to the case studies, we want to move our attention or expand our attention away from just having a better product, better service, better customer service, more people who know your name, etc., to more of these emotional layers that surround the core of our business, our core product. I'm going to touch on these elements, and then we're going to leverage some of these in our exercise. But I wanted to acknowledge from the start that we're just going to scratch the surface on all of these things. We can't possibly do a deep dive into all of these here today. And like I said, if you do want the in-depth training, I have trainings available on all of these different elements in the Brand Clarity Collective. But let's introduce so you can start to become aware of these different levers that you can pull. First one being brand personality. And this is your brand's unique character that sets it apart from competitors. I love to shop for ice cream. I'm lactose intolerant, so it's like a special kind of love. But there's such a fun example when you're like standing in front of that cold freezer in the grocery store, looking at all of the different brands, because they're all made with vanilla, cream, sugar, milk, but they've packaged up the product in so many different personalities. Haagen-Dazs has this like lover, decadent personality. We have Halo Top, which is innocent. We have Ben and Jerry's, which is like irreverent and quirky and political. So our brand personality can set us apart from our competitors, even when we're selling the exact same product. Brand values are the core values and beliefs that guide your brand's actions and then also resonate with your audience. That first part is crucial, because if you have a list of values, by the way, if you don't know what your brand values are, this can be a really great first exercise. I didn't want this to be our exercise today because I've taught it a bunch of times, but if you haven't been in my world, I'm going to suggest kind of like a bonus activity here. If you aren't sure what your brand values are, write a list on a piece of paper that starts with the words, I believe, and just finish that sentence as many times as you can. What do you believe to be true about your industry? What do you believe to be true about success, about relationships, about freedom, about security? What do you believe to be true about the world? And then once you have that master brainstorm list, you can go back through and circle the ones that are most relevant to your brand. Again, the key here is not just to have the list, not just to know that your values are integrity or trust or whatever those common brand values are, but to make decisions based on them. So how is that actually going to show up in your brand? Brand story. Again, we're doing a deeper dive into storytelling tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. This is a captivating narrative that shares your journey and your purpose and inspires loyalty. Your visual identity communicates emotional cues to your people. If you're using a consistent visual standard, people will begin to know and associate you and your brand with whatever associations that visual communicates. If we're being just like on a simplistic level, if we have like really soft pastel colors, we're going to be associating your brand with, I don't know, maybe something like pure and like motherhood or children. Like those types of cues come from that like very soft pastel color palette, versus if your color palette is red and black and full of sharp lines and super bold text, we're getting more of a sense that you're like an athlete or you're a rebel in your industry. The visuals actually help communicate emotion in your brand. The emotional benefits are the feelings and experiences that customers can expect when they interact with your brand. If I'm selling brand strategy, the tangible outcome might be that you attract more ideal clients, you convert more of those clients, you shorten your sales cycle. All that's fine, but the emotional benefits could be that you feel a sense of clarity and certainty in who you are, what you stand for, which has secondary effects of you showing up more often unapologetically, you being willing to share your message more freely, and so on. Your brand voice and tone, similar to your visuals, you should have messaging standards. What are the word choices that you're using? How are you naming your products or your services? How are you opening and closing your emails? Down to that level of detail, you can help shape the emotional experience that people have. Are you talking to people like you're a friend, or are you talking to people like you're a scientific researcher? It's going to sound completely different and give people two different emotional experiences with your brand. What are the other sensory elements? If you are creating online content, are you adding music? What kind of music? If you have a physical space, or if you're meeting people in person, what are you wearing? What are the textures of the clothing? Maybe the scents of your retail store, if you have one of those. What is the experience that your customers have when they actually buy and engage with your business? What are your customer service policies? How are you onboarding and offboarding them? What is the social proof? One really interesting part about the human psyche is that we're social animals, and emotionally, we look for safety and security by seeing what other people are doing and what they've seen success with. We look for other people to go first. So by bringing social proof into your business through testimonials, case studies, and examples, you help people feel a sense of security, that emotional sense of, okay, this is a good choice for me. And then also, like Tom's or Lush, are you connecting your brand to community and social impact? When people buy your brand, how are they bettering the world? What movement are they becoming a part of? So all of these are different aspects that we can use to build more emotion into your brand. And if you haven't done a lot of this work yet, just start with one. We're going to center our exercise around that idea of one as well. Good news. And if you've been in the Kaye & Co brand orbit for any length of time, you know that this is one of my favorite tools. We can use archetypes to help inform a lot of those decisions. Brand archetypes are a powerful tool that help you establish a deep connection with your audience. And by aligning your brand with a specific archetype to max, you create a framework that helps you naturally define what your personality, values, stories, visual identity, emotional benefits are. And this allows your brand to tap into universal patterns and themes that resonate with humans. So you're simplifying the process of building an emotion-driven brand. And as a result, your audience can kind of like quickly understand, they get you. They understand your essence, and you can create a stronger bond faster. So as you're looking at this list of 12 archetypes, even if you haven't taken the quiz on my website, which has been taken 200,000 times before I stopped counting last year, and if you haven't identified it yet, you can just read the descriptions and start to notice which one you resonate with the most. And chances are you're going to resonate with a lot of them. We all have aspects of all 12 archetypes in all of our brands and all of ourselves as humans. But as a thought experiment, just see which one feels the best. Just pick one for the purpose of this exercise. I'm Sage and Magician, if y'all are curious. And just to bop backwards for a second, let's say we're the Explorer archetype. We can start to see how this might shape these emotional elements. My personality, we can start to think of your brand like a character. If I'm the Explorer, I might be that like vagabonding, wanderlust friend that I think we all have. And we can start to imagine the types of like language, voice, and tone that person might use. You can start to connect with very universal human beliefs. Like the Explorer values freedom above all else. They want to do things in their own way, not what society or the status quo tells them to do. And they want to experience everything that there is to life. They see life like a buffet that they can go out and taste and try different things. The brand story might be one of being in a cage, being stuck, and then how you got free. Your visual identity might remind us of other cultures, or maybe just being in nature and exploring in that aspect. The emotional benefits that somebody might experience from a brand is also feeling a sense of freedom or permission for themselves, and so on and so forth. So you can see how it can start to inform all of these things by just using this one big domino of understanding what your archetype is. Amazing, amazing, guys. And quick little plug, if you do end up joining me in the Brand Clarity Collective, you get access to all 12 brand archetype courses, which is incredible. It's over a $3,000 value, and it really gives you the opportunity to dive into just maybe your top two if you just want to focus there and you already know what they are. But if you aren't sure, you can just kind of like dip into each of the 12 and see which ones resonate the most with you to help you make that decision. And inside the rest of the Brand Clarity Collective, you can see how we start to expand. So we have lots of lessons from Brand New Brand in here that help you define your brand from A to Z. So how to define your point of view, AKA your values and beliefs, how to choose your colors, how to choose your logos, and so on. Let's get into today's exercise. This is page 1 of 2. So if you don't see your archetype on here that you want to focus on today, it's on the next slide. One of the interesting aspects of that Harvard Business Review article that I was reading about building more emotion into your brand is they actually identified over 300 emotional benefits that a brand can tap into. But that's a lot and gives us like a sense of overwhelm. So I've identified using archetypes and then also using a bit of what was in that article. They identified 10, I expanded it out to 12 that correspond with the archetype. So if you know what your archetype is, or if we're just making again, using this as a thought exercise and picking one to focus on for today's exercise, letting go of the need for perfection, we can play around with this as an experiment. Take note on a piece of paper or on your phone what your emotional benefit of your brand is, and then also how your brand can leverage this motivator by helping customers. So I'm going to read them out really quick. If you're the maverick, your emotional motivator is to stand out from the crowd. And you can leverage this by helping customers break the rules, challenge the status quo, embrace their rebellious nature. If you're the sage, one of the emotional motivators is to have confidence in the future. And you can leverage this by helping people gain wisdom and knowledge, help them trust in their ability to navigate their future with informed choices. Caregiver, their emotion is, it helps us enjoy a sense of well-being. And you can leverage this by being nurturing, support, helping them experience nurturing, support, and protection, also helping people feel cared for and safe. If you're the explorer, people desire a sense of freedom, and you can help them embark on new adventures, discover and experience the world without limitations. If you're the magician, one of the emotional motivators of the magician is to feel a sense of thrill. Possibility might be another word there. And you can leverage this by helping customers transform their reality, create extraordinary experiences, and also tap into the power of possibility. The girl or guy next door is motivated by the feeling of a sense of belonging. And brands can leverage this motivator by helping customers connect with others, relate to common experiences, or to be part of a supportive community. If you're going to focus on the hero, one of their emotional motivators is to succeed. And you can leverage this motivator by helping customers overcome challenges, achieve personal greatness, embody courage and strength. With the royal, we desire to feel secure. And we can leverage this by helping people achieve success and stability and maintain control over their environment. Creator, emotional motivator is to be the person I want to be. And you can leverage this by helping people express their creativity, build and shape the world around them, and find purpose in their work. Innocence motivator is to experience simple pleasures and help people do this by finding joy and happiness in the simple things, appreciate beauty of purity and sincerity, and also to decomplicate, make things less complicated for people. Lover brand archetype desires connection with either my inner self or others. And you can leverage this by helping people cultivate deep, meaningful relationships, embrace passion, sensuality, essentially follow your heart instead of your brain. And the final one in our list of 12, the entertainer, desires to be entertained and delighted. And you can leverage this by helping people experience fun, joy, amusement, engage in playful and lighthearted interactions. So write down your archetype, the motivator, and the way that brands generally can leverage this motivator. And once you do that, I want us to think laterally for a moment. So instead of jumping straight to our own brand, let's pause in the middle and using that information, I'm going to use my own here as an example. So let me just pop back here. So magicians help people transform their reality, create extraordinary experiences, and tap into a power of possibility. So let's think about other situations beyond our brand that help people do that, that help them either feel that sense of thrill and possibility if you're also a magician brand, or help them transform their reality, help them see new possibilities. What are other real life examples that evoke those same emotions? Write down some of those examples. As I'm thinking off the top of my head here, other spaces that do this, I don't know why my brain went here first, but like psychedelics help people transform their reality and perceive the world in a different way. Some of the health and wellness practices, things like breath work, hypnotherapy, meditation, visualization. Also, the idea of like a makeover and seeing yourself, seeing your identity in a whole different light. Like before I was this, now I've completely changed my world and how I look and how I feel and how I operate. And this is my new self. And I don't want to overtake your thinking. So I'm just going to give you a moment. I would love if you shared your archetype and then another example from real life of where that emotion comes forward. It can be generic. I think we can help each other brainstorm by sharing some of the obvious examples too. What other situations generate that emotion? Magician festivals, explore taking a big trip to a new culture, girl next door lunch date, being everybody's friend, sage doing a challenge or taking a course. Yeah. I mean, there's tons of parallels that we can garner from academics, universities, and so on for sage for sure. Events, gym, ladies' nights, play dates, for creative religious experiences. Yeah. I think that could also work for magician. Buying a motorcycle for maverick. Yes. I'm magician and explore meditation in the forest. Yes, that's a fantastic parallel. Once we have this lateral thinking in our mind, we can use that as inspiration for our brands. And the exercise that I want you to complete today is to simply identify one idea. I have a lot of prompts here on the screen that you can use to help inform or help inspire. But our goal is not to fill out this entire matrix here today, this emotional matrix. But these are all the places that we could apply emotion to our brand. It could be in the visuals, could be in the voice, could be in the experiences that we create within our brand. It could also be in the psychological themes that we communicate. Where is one place where you haven't yet, but you could add more emotion into your brand? Use that lateral thinking exercise. So if we're using a festival as our inspiration, maybe there's music that's specific to that festival atmosphere that we could use to start our YouTube videos. Maybe there is some really interesting makeup or outfit that you could use for your personal brand portraits if we're talking about visuals. Maybe you could simply name or like break up your trainings if you're doing like a webinar or class into different stages that people can experience. If you're a creator in the vision board, maybe some of your brand visuals have that collage type of feel. There's no wrong answers here. My goal with this training is to get you thinking in this direction. We get so caught up in the marketing strategies and the shoulds of our brand that we forget to flex our own creative muscle and to do things in our own way. And if I can inspire you to create a brand that is uniquely you because it is born from your innate advantages, brand archetypes can be a really powerful tool to help us identify some of those themes. So like I said, today's exercise is to identify one place that you are specifically going to use this training to inspire and build more emotion into your brand. We use the lateral thinking exercise to help us get out of the box because we all get too stuck in our own industry, in our own context, that it doesn't occur to us that we could be inspired by a festival or by meditating in the forest when what we sell is marketing strategies, right? But if we can combine those ideas in a novel and unique way, we can come up with our own magic for our own brand. And because emotion is so much built and understood in the subconscious, by having the lateral thinking exercise, it allows us to tap into our own subconscious. When it comes to branding, it's not just about standing out. It's about etching your brand into the hearts and minds of your audience. Embrace the art of being unforgettable, and you'll create a legacy that not only defines your business, but also changes the lives of the humans that you touch. If we haven't been connected in all of the places yet, please find me on wherever you spend time on social media, whether that's Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. I'm a good online marketer. I'm in all of the places. I don't necessarily recommend that you are in all of the places as an online brand, so don't let that confuse you. I have a decade of experience in systems that have allowed me to get to this place, but we share a ton of free content in all of the different places. And these are some of the places where you can find me. I would love to stay connected even beyond this 4-day training. And as always, build your brand on truth, not trends. Let's stop being inspired by what everybody else is doing and stop being distracted by all of the shiny objects and hone in on what is uniquely true for you. That is the secret. That is what makes your brand compelling and magnetic to your ideal clients.